presume que la ciencia y yo no.
In the 7th century AD, a new force arose in the Arabian Peninsula that would reach out to change the entire known world. Introduced by the Prophet Muhammad, the faith of Islam drew the people of Arabia together in the belief in one God. By the time the Prophet died in 632, Islam had spread across the entire Arabian Peninsula. Inspired and united by their vital new faith, these Muslims began to spread it to neighboring countries. In 5 years, the Arabs controlled Damascus. A year later, they had captured Jerusalem. Everywhere they went, they found oppressed and overtaxed people, eager for a better government and hungry for something to believe in. People who became enthusiastic new converts to the Arab cause. The teachings of the Islamic Holy Scripture, the Quran, about justice, charity, and equality among men, gave these people finer ideas than any they had known. It won their loyalty away from the individual tribe to the greater community of the faithful. By 651 AD, they had easily overcome the corrupt and decaying Byzantine and Persian empires and shortly spread the word through the Egyptian, Libyan, and Tunisian countrysides. The nomadic Berbers of North Africa fought them hard, but in their defeat, finally embraced Islam too. By 705, with all North Africa under Arab control, the Muslim forces stood just 13 miles across the water from Spain. In 711, General Tariq crossed the strait and landed on the rock that still bears his name, Jabal Tariq, or Gibraltar. At the time, Spain was ruled by the Visigoths, a Germanic people who had taken over after the fall of the Roman Empire. Tariq took the bulk of his army toward Toledo, the Visigoth capital, while sending detachments against neighboring towns. The Arabs continued to sweep on through Spain. In one summer, they had taken half of the peninsula, and within 5 years controlled almost the entire country, leaving the Visigoths only a tiny stronghold in the north. Spain had become a province of the Caliphate. The Arabic name it was given was Al-Andalus. In 732, almost 100 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, an Arab army reached the city of Tours in France. The domain of the successors of the Prophet Muhammad had become a world empire extending from Europe to China. Contrary to the commonly held myth of the fanatical warrior of Islam, Arabs practiced a religious tolerance remarkable for any age. Christian and Jewish communities were left unmolested because in the eyes of the followers of the Quran, they, like themselves, were people of the book. To many historians, the Arab conquest was a great gift to Spain and to the world. It broke the power of the privileged groups, including the nobility and the clergy. It ameliorated the conditions of the lowest class and restored to the Christian landowner the property he was denied under the Visigoths. Bringing the arts and sciences from the Muslim world, the Arabs made living in the cities of their new country delightful. They constructed thousands of mosques, bridges, palaces, and imposing castles. They started the beautification of cities like Toledo, Cordoba, Seville, Granada, Malaga, Almeria, Valencia. They also struck coins, organized a postal service, and raised city life to a level of culture and comfort unknown in the rest of Europe. The mosque was the heart of the Muslim city. No effort was spared to make it an impressive structure. It was not only a place of worship, but was used for teaching and the administration of justice. The great mosque of Cordoba was built with the finest materials from all over the world. It had 1,200 pillars supporting 2 tiers of arches, which in turn supported the dome. Around the mosque was the marketplace. Luxury goods from the far corners of the world could be found there, as well as many of the fine products of Al-Andalus. Textiles and brocades from wool, cotton, and silk were woven there. Carpets were everywhere in use in the Arab world, yet they were not to be found in Europe until some centuries later. Cordoba, the chosen capital, soon became the most populous and certainly the most splendid city in all Europe. Spaniards, dazzled by the glamour of the Arab civilization, its art, poetry, philosophy, and science, soon began to adopt the Arab way of living. The Christian converts were called Muzarabs. The Muzarabs carried these and other architectural features developed in Cordoba to Toledo and other northern centers. The city enjoyed miles of paved roads illuminated by streetlights. It was clean and bright, whereas even 700 years later, there was not one such public lamp in London. And in Paris, it was said, whoever stepped over his threshold on a rainy day stepped up to his ankles in mud. Arab houses with windowless exterior walls faced an inner courtyard which usually contained a pool or fountain and a small garden. This design kept the temperature even and cool. Making the streets narrow shaded the houses. Under Arab rule, Cordoba at its height was the most cultured city in Europe and the world ornament. Philosophers, astronomers, mathematicians, physicians, scientists, musicians, and poets chose the city for their capital. Noble Christian families sent their sons there to be educated at the university, while the rest of Europe still lived in superstition and ignorance. An example of the university is still to be found in Morocco. An inscription commonly found on its walls was this: "The world is supported by 4 things: the learning of the wise, the justice of the great, the prayers of the righteous, and the valor of the brave." Education was based on the Holy Quran. Schools taught reading, writing, grammar, and poetry from its pages. The Arabic language was used throughout Spain and was a factor in holding the nation together. Most Christians were bilingual, speaking both Arabic and their native Romance language. Some of the rulers patronized learning. Al-Hakam, for example, granted generous scholarships and established 27 free schools in the capital. Under him, the University of Córdoba, founded by Caliph Abdul Rahman III, rose to a preeminent place among educational institutions. Al-Hakam was also a book lover. His agents searched the bookshops of Alexandria, Damascus, and Baghdad with a view to buying or copying manuscripts. His library is said to have numbered 400,000 titles. Muslim physicians were far ahead of those in the rest of Europe in medical knowledge. They regarded it as a science that could be advanced by observation, while their northern neighbors saw illness as the will of God and looked to magic and prayer for cures. Doctors in Arab Spain were licensed and had a code of conduct. There was a public hospital in every town. Arab Tubibs founded the earliest school of pharmacy. Ibn al-Baybar, the botanist of Spain, brought Arab pharmacology to great heights, and it was here that he classified and listed the names and uses of more than 1,400 drugs derived from curative herbs and plants for medicine. When the Black Plague ravaged Europe in the later Middle Ages, 2 Arab doctors proposed the idea that the disease was caused by contamination and spread from person to person. Ailing monarchs of Europe sent to Córdoba for Arab doctors. Arab physicians published the earliest treatises on veterinary science, surgery, smallpox, dentistry, pediatrics, on abscess and cancer of the womb, treatises on the respiratory organs, on eye diseases and optics. Hunayn ibn Ishaq's book on eye treatment is the earliest known to include anatomical charts, and its influence on the development of ophthalmology was profound. Ibn Haytham's book on optics was recognized as the most important source in its field. He was called the father of optics. Eye specialists in modern Barcelona are still known as the best in Europe. Azarawi's book on surgery contained drawings of about 200 instruments that he himself had designed and became the basis for later European scientific advances. Al-Razi's medical books and Ibn Sina's The Rules of Medicine remain to this day unrivaled. Most of these books were translated into Latin and were the key works in the teaching of Arab medicine in Europe from the 9th to the 17th centuries. Arab astronomers perfected the astrolabe, an important measuring instrument used in astronomy and navigation. They measured the length of a terrestrial degree with the intent of determining the circumference and spherical nature of the Earth. In astrology, Ibn Mashar explains in a treatise the laws of tides in relation to the moon's rising and setting. Muslims composed the oldest book on arithmetic. Al-Khawarizmi, one of the greatest minds of Islam, invented algebra, meaning in Arabic the union of broken parts. Arabs also laid the foundation of analytic geometry. These influences are evident in the design arts. The introduction of Arabic numerals and the zero, or el-sifr, the very basis of modern arithmetic, was used by the Arabs 250 years before it reached Western Europe. It made possible mathematical solutions which could never have developed with Roman numerals. Philosophy, too, made great advances in spite of the repression from religious orthodoxy. 2 of Córdoba's philosophers, Ibn al-Rushd and Ibn al-Maymun, tried to reconcile the ideas of monotheistic religion based on faith with the ideas of Greek philosophy based on reason. The commentaries of Ibn al-Rushd upon Aristotle were widely read in Europe and influenced many Christian thinkers, including Thomas Aquinas. Between the middle of the 8th and the beginning of the 13th centuries, The Arabic-speaking peoples were the main torchbearers of culture and civilization throughout the world. Moreover, they were the means by which ancient science and philosophy made possible the Renaissance of Western Europe. In this, Arab Spain had a large share. The Arabs understood the importance of agriculture to the economy of their nation and brought the fields and orchards to new heights of productivity. They introduced the water wheel. Some types were turned by human or animal power, but one ingenious type used the current of the river itself to turn the wheel and lift the water up to the field. Such wheels are still in use today. They built an extensive irrigation system and used sophisticated surveying methods to make their fields level and thus easier to water. Al-Filaha, written by Ibn al-Wan, the famous botanist of Seville, is the most important and outstanding Islamic work on agriculture. The book treats 585 plants and explains the cultivation of more than 50 fruit trees. It presents new observations on grafting and the properties of the soil and manure, and discusses the symptoms of several diseases of trees and vines, suggesting cures. Immigrants from the Middle East introduced oranges, lemons, pomegranates, date palms, rice, cotton, sugar, almonds, and many other kinds of crops. They introduced intensive organic farming using manure and managed the land more efficiently than the Romans or the Visigoths had. In many cases, land that had been harvested only once a year before the arrival of the Muslims began to produce 2 or 3 times a year. Unlike the Christians of the time who believed that virtue would be rewarded only in heaven, in everyday life Muslims believe that the faithful should be rewarded on earth and should enjoy the good things of life here and now. The best of this heaven-on-earth paradise in Spain is seen in Alhambra, the red, from the color of the bricks of which its outer walls are built. This fairy tale palace of truly oriental splendor is considered the pearl of Arab architecture in Spain. Here all kinds of decorative elements were brought into play with eloquent skill and refinement. The chief designer of the Nasrid dynasty who built Alhambra wished to give a place in the palace to all the decorative elements traditionally used in the Umayyad, Abbasid, Fatimid and Seljuk periods. The coat of arms of the Nasrids, with the motto "No victor but God," played an important part in the palace decorations. It was a victorious Muhammad al-Ghalib, cheered by the crowds on his return to Granada, who coined the motto. The Arabs regarded their language as their most precious possession. Sayings in the beautifully fluid script were often used to decorate buildings. In this palace, members of the best society were expert in the art of gracious and luxurious living. Their conversations were witty and intellectual. The recitation of poetry or the improvisation of verses, suited to the occasion, was a pastime in which the members of society were expected to be competent. Here, sweet drink was served in cups of gold and silver, or in finely cut glass. An orchestra provided a musical background, or a beautiful girl sang to the lute or ode. The elegant taste and customs of the court of Baghdad, introduced by Ziryad 3 centuries before to the Umayyad capital of Cordoba, were followed here in Alhambra. And in Granada, too, there existed an institute of beauty, a calendar of fashion which became the arbiter not only of what should be worn, but what should be eaten. Bathing and cleanliness were an important part of life to the Andalusians. In this example in Alhambra, it is said that the lords were entertained by blind musicians while they washed. Arab civilization at its height devoted a great attention to music. The Conservatory of Andalusian Music was opened in Cordoba during the 9th century. Other schools followed in Seville, Toledo, Valencia, and Granada. The telling of romantic stories had always been a favorite Arab diversion, one indeed to which Western European literature owes an immense debt. Through ballads and love songs was manifested a tender chivalry. The voice was more appreciated than the orchestra, partly because it could combine music and poetry, both much loved by the Arabs. Spanish music bears the influence today, as one can hear in these 2 selections, the first an old Arab song, the second from modern Spain. Although it is now nearly 500 years since the Arabs left Spain, their enormous influence is incalculable. Spaniards today use some 4,000 words of Arabic origin in their daily conversation, and many other words have found their way into other European languages. The cry of Olé, for example, is derived directly from the Arabic Ya Allah, meaning for the sake of God. If you order coffee with sugar in a bar, you will be using Arabic words. Traffic is an Arabic word. Buy a gold ring and ask how many carats it is, and again you will be using an Arabic word. The check, a bill of exchange, also derives from the Arabic. Many common foods, rice, lemon, spinach, artichoke, apricot, were also introduced to Europe by the Arabs. The word makhazin, meaning a storehouse for goods and munitions in Arabic, became magazine in French and magazine in English. The faces of Spanish people today reflect their Arabic ancestry. Arab blood still runs in the veins of many Spaniards, especially in the south. The Spanish language has preserved several architectural terms of Arabic origin. The Arab style is still evident all over the country. In the hands of Muslim builders who preferred to remain in Spain, Oriental art, mingled with the Spanish and called mudahar, attained great beauty and perfection, and became the Spanish national style. Architecture in Spain, right to the present, shows great influence of Arabic style. The familiar arches, the lovely patios with their fountains and flowers, all reflect an Arabic touch. The beautiful tiles called azulejos are still made and used. But the greatest gift of the Arabs to modern Spain remains Alhambra, the jewel of the country. It has inspired travelers and poets for many centuries. Some writers call Alhambra the most marvelous building that exists in the world, and the most precious example of Arab art existing in Spain. This splendid palace has become a center for pilgrims from all over the world. In every language, visitors remark upon its beauty. For some, Alhambra has become an open-air university amphitheater in Muslim art studies, a living source of inspiration. This woman has still to learn, though, that writing in Arabic proceeds from right to left. For some others, Alhambra is a place where they can escape the pressures of a mechanized world, among the fountains and gardens. After so many years of absence, Arabs are once again returning, now as vacationers. They come to see the marvels their ancestors accomplished during their tenure of nearly 800 years. This modern mosque, built by an Arab emir in Spain's Marbella, echoes the eloquent statement about a people who made great contributions to mankind in the past, and who have now returned to join the rest of the world in an intellectual partnership beneficial to all her future generations.